For the sake of time, we will start. My name's Heather Bybee. I'm the Chief Academic Officer here in Spokane, and we're going to go around and do a quick set of introductions. I'm going to walk you through a little presentation, and then we'll spend the rest of our time answering as many questions as we can. So with that, Tricia Cannonberg is our principal from Regal Elementary. Say hi, Tricia. Becky Ramsey, our Director of Special Education. Gwen Harris, Elementary School Director in Option Schools. Tricia Gessley, our Elementary Math Coordinator. Clint Price, Principal, Moran Prairie. Jennifer Keck, Elementary School Director. Allie Barrera from our Communications team. Rochelle Miller, our Executive Assistant that helps us with all things technology and Zoom. And Dr. Swinyard has joined us, Superintendent. So thank you, everyone. We're just getting started, Adam.
Great. Well, we appreciate everyone being here this evening, and we're eager to provide another update to our families and our community around the reopening of school and the start to the year. And the focus tonight will be our elementary distance learning model. And so we're going to provide a brief overview of our reopening plans, some similar pieces of information to what we've shared in prior weeks. We have some updates this evening relative to the calendar. That information was also sent to families yesterday in an email. And then we really want to focus on elementary. And we've got some of our elementary curriculum experts here. We have two of our principals with us this evening that really want to respond to questions and share some insight. And we know that the decision to begin the year in a distance learning model is something that's heartbreaking to all of us. And it's going to take everyone's best effort to make this year as best as it possibly can be for our students. We know that a distance learning model creates some significant challenges to our students, particularly our youngest learners. Their ability to engage in a distance learning model creates a lot of barriers for them. And we know that we're going to have to be really thoughtful. We don't want them staring at a screen all day. We want to give them an experience that is engaging and is developmentally appropriate. And we're going to be working really hard to partner with families, and our teachers are vigorously preparing to give that type of experience. And that's what we want to share this evening, is give you a sense of what that's going to look like and what role you can play as a parent to help your student get ready. So I know Heather has some PowerPoint slides that we are going to share. We'll talk through those, and we want to move swiftly so we can field as many questions as possible. We'll get to as many of those questions as we can. We've been building an FAQ site on our webpage, and we'll answer questions either in chat or we'll respond to them from our panelists after we get through this opening information. So we, yesterday evening, proposed, and it was unanimously approved by our school board, a reopening plan, both for when our school buildings are open and a plan for if our buildings are closed and we know we need a full distance learning model. We recognize that in-person learning is in every way the most effective and most beneficial way to provide teaching and learning to students, to create an atmosphere of relationship and community, to keep them connected to intervention services and basic needs. And the decision to close our school buildings and start in a distance model, as I mentioned, was difficult. And we have made a consistent practice as a district of following the health and safety guidelines of public health officials at the local and state level who oversee Spokane County. And we're a large school district. We have over 30,000 kids. We have almost 4,000 staff members across 54 schools. And on any given day, we are following a vast number of requirements and guidelines from public health officials from a practical and liability perspective to keep everyone safe and to keep our district running effectively. And we have made the decision to continue to follow that guidance and not begin the practice of picking and choosing what guidelines to follow. So that has led us to beginning the year in this distance learning model. And as you can see, we're going to share with you this evening what it looks like when our buildings are closed and what it looks like when our buildings are open, but really focus in on that elementary piece. So Heather's going to review each of those models with us, and then we'll talk specifically about that elementary school day.
All right, thank you. So this is just what Adam was alluding to about our different models, but really wanted to get into what's different. What's different between what you experienced in the spring and what you'll see this fall. As we developed our plan for full distance learning, some of the key things we learned about were some consistent schedules for students and teachers with real-time instruction and a designated place for learning in each content. Instruction will be based on the workshop model, which as teachers, we say that's the I do, we do, you do, meaning a teacher might start a lesson, might launch with a lesson in literacy, read a story, do some instruction, and then have students partner up, do some work together, and then release them to do something independently and set a timer to say, we're gonna come back here in 15 minutes and we're gonna show what we've learned, we're gonna do some share outs. So when people see the schedules that we're about to show, it isn't 3 hours locked to your computer. That is not, we don't think that's healthy for an adult, and we know it's not healthy for a 5-year-old. So with that, we also have electives and specialists for each of our students, including special time for music, PE, art, and science. In addition, we built time for small group instruction because we know it's important that some of our kids need individualized time that they can ask the teacher questions and that they can get the support that meets their needs. With that, we also, after hearing lots of feedback from the community and our staff, we've landed on Microsoft Teams as our universal platform. And we will be checking out laptops for each student so that everyone has a consistent experience and device. So with that, I will kind of give you a preview of the model. And I know this model, I've heard lots of feedback that this is built like on a middle school or high school thinking. And it was really just for us to have time holders as we look to how we would schedule. So if you're looking at this, there's 3 hours and 20 minutes. And I just say it's a compacted school experience. So if traditionally there's 6.5 hours, we've condensed that time to 3 hours and 20 minutes with students still having times for breaks and recess and play, as well as their specialist, as we call them in elementary school. So for example, I might start my day with a class meeting. I might read a story. We might tell experiences from the night before. And then I might release my kids to go to music, and then they're going to have some time with their music teacher, and then they're going to come back and we're going to do a math lesson, and we're going to do that workshop model, and then we're going to go have recess, and we're going to play for 10 minutes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do a lesson on literacy, and then we're going to break for lunch. And we intentionally built lunch to be an extended period of time, knowing where kids will be and how they will be feeling after engaging for 3 hours. We also built that time in alignment with our secondary schools so that if younger siblings were relying on older siblings to help them with mealtime or to have someone that they could ask questions to, that they would be available. And then the second block of time that you see there in the afternoon, it says independent work time or play. That's based on age. Since we're talking from 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds, that's quite a span. We would be thinking that 5-year-olds might have some story time. They might need a nap. We get that, but our 6th graders might be doing some homework at that time. They might be preparing to visit the next session, which is the real-time personalized learning block. And that's an opportunity for classroom teachers to invite back small groups of students to do some individual work. That could be an enrichment opportunity, that could be some intervention or support. At the same time, if I'm a 6th grade teacher and I invited back 5 students, there might be then an opportunity for the other 20 students to participate in another specialist class. So they have an opportunity to get real instruction by the specialist during the morning, and then an enrichment or extra activity in the afternoon. In addition, one of the things we learned last spring was there needed to be set time that parents knew they could access the teacher. I've got a question, I didn't understand this, or we were having a struggle. So we wanted that to be there. And we also want to help encourage our 5th and 6th grade students to have their own agency and be able to ask the teacher questions. So that's something that we're looking to empower in our students. So that is kind of the overview of the block. But with that model, we're also looking to do some small individual instruction that could be face-to-face. with our students who are furthest away from educational justice, including our special education and ELD students. In terms of a year-long full distance, there's lots of questions about Spokane Virtual Academy. How's it different? How's it the same from what we just shared? The model I just shared is what's happening at each of our comprehensive schools. So if you're a Moran Prairie family, you're looking at the model that I shared earlier, knowing that it won't look the same. That's an example. Our music teachers teach throughout the day, so your student might have music at 9 o'clock and another student might have it at 9:30. Those are all things that are varying. We just wanted a place that people could see what the schedule was. In terms of the virtual academy, it is both a paced option or a self-paced, knowing that families need flexibility, that the 8 to 11 does not work for everybody. There are different shifts, there are different support systems in place. And so Spokane Virtual Academy is really built to accommodate those variances. In this, there is real-time experience. There will be live teachers available for students if that's the method that works best for them. There will be a consistent school day, again, for those students who that works best for. But there will also be the opportunity where students can collect their work for the week, get their lessons, and then flex their time and how they access and turn in materials throughout the week. We look at this option for families who are not comfortable coming back this school year. So if you are worried that we're going to come back to school in the winter and that you're not ready to come back unless there's a vaccine, then Spokane Virtual Academy would be a good choice. Knowing that you will maintain your spot at your home school. If you're a Regal student today, you're going to be a Regal student in December. You're going to be a Regal student next fall. So I know that there's a lot of concern even with our option families. If you're a Montessori student today, you're going to be a Montessori student tomorrow. And so know that those spots will be held for you. It just will be flexible in how they can be replaced this year. So.
And I would just add to that, Heather, that our goal through all this is we want to be as flexible as we possibly can and do everything we're able to do to meet the needs of students and families and get them into the fit that they think is going to be best for them. Guaranteed enrollment for the virtual academy, as Heather mentioned, the deadline for that is Sunday. And then after that point, we know we'll have some families that will feel ready to go from the virtual academy back to in-person when we make that decision. And we know we'll have families that when we decide to go and phase back, that they're not ready to do that and they want to stay virtual. So we know we'll have interest going back and forth with students. And we're going to do everything we can to accommodate that based on space available. And we'll do that as quickly as we can. Something that's important through all of this is that we keep our district family together and strong. And we're going to be working very hard to keep your student connected to the school that they feel that connection and bond to.
All right, and just like our students in the comprehensive schools, there'll be the opportunity to check out a laptop. They'll be utilizing Microsoft Teams. There's some variation with Blackboard being a shell, but there's an integration between Microsoft and Blackboard that we'll be looking at. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Adam, to talk about daycare.
Yeah, one of the things that we recognize is that having a distance learning model has a significant impact to our working families related to childcare. And we recognize and we empathize with that. And we want to do everything we can to support our families in that circumstance. I think we've all recognized the incredible importance of public schools in so many different ways for our kids, for our community, for our economy. And so we know that the impact to our working families is real. And so we are going to be providing some limited childcare options and supervision based on space available. The first option will be our SPS Day Camp. And so that will be a 7:45 to 3:45 option, 5 days a week. It'll be low cost based on space available. There'll be scholarships for families based on need that need that extra assistance. And it'll be an environment where kids will engage in their real-time learning with their teacher, with structures, with routines, adhering to all the safety protocols that are necessary. We're going to be managing really closely the total number of students on site. Heather mentioned that we'll be doing some limited in-person instruction. and we'll have our SPS Day Camp in our facilities. And we recognize that it wouldn't make any sense for us to fill our buildings full of students and not open school. That doesn't meet the recommendations and the guidelines for the health district, and that's not common sense. What we do want to do is mitigate the impact of this distance learning model to the greatest extent possible. And that is going to involve limited in-person instruction, and it's going to involve limited childcare options for our families in our schools. So we're going to closely monitor the number of students that are on site at any one time, keeping that number at a level that we know we can manage the safety protocols and strict cohorting. Having 100 students in an elementary is substantially different than having 600 students in an elementary school at any one time. So we're going to utilize those strategies to mitigate this impact, and we're going to manage that total number on site really, really carefully so that we're keeping everyone safe and that we follow the recommendations and guidelines from the health district. We're also going to be offering SPS learning centers. This is a little bit different option. This is 2 to 3 hour periods of time that students can come, engage in habits and routines and some structures to help them be successful in school. This is a good option for that student that needs that extra assistance 2 or 3 days a week to have that nice, consistent routine. It's also a good option for a family that may be really struggling with quality access to internet, or a family that may have parents that have intermittent work demands and they need an afternoon or a morning, a couple days a week, to provide some supervised opportunities for their students to engage in the work. So we're going to be standing up those learning centers as quickly as we can. We're going to be phasing all these in as quickly as we can, but we have to do it safely. We have to make sure staff are trained. And then the last option is we want to make sure that our community is aware of the other options that are available throughout our partners that have historically offered childcare and supervision to our students and that are stepping up to do it in this moment. So again, these options will be limited. They'll be based on space available and need, but we really believe that it's important that we do everything we can, that we use every resource possible to mitigate the impacts of a distance learning environment. We're also going to be continuing to serve meals when schools are closed, and it's going to look a little bit different than it was in the spring. In the spring, we primarily had students coming to the buildings every day to pick up their meals, or we utilized some drop-off locations. And moving into this year, we're going to shift to a kit format where there'll be 5-day meal kits that students will be able to pick up. We really want to mitigate how much students will have to travel. We want to make it more accessible. We want to make sure that they can maximize their time focused on that real-time instruction, that real-day school experience. And so we think those 5-day meal kits is going to be an option that will help them do that in a way that was a better format than the spring.
And this is school calendar. And so I know there's been some news on the school calendar. So the things for parents to be connected to is September 8th. September 8th through the 11th, we have set aside time to connect with every family and help onboard them to this new experience. One of the things we learned in the spring was how much clear communication, a clear plan would have helped our families and teachers so much. But the one thing we had going for us in the spring is we had relationships with the kids, right? So we knew who they were, we knew their families, and it was a place of connection. We know this fall will be like no other fall any of us have ever experienced in our careers, in our lives with our children. And so we want to be really intentional about fostering that connection and community with our students. So we're looking at setting up 35 to 40-minute conferences for each family, where we will help onboard them to the expectations, the support and resources, not only available through the school, but available in the community if they're struggling. We're looking at doing laptop and supply delivery prior to that date, and then kind of sending out some learning activities and exploration for that week so that kids can be exploring, getting acclimated, and then hitting the ground running on the 14th will be the first day that kind of mirrors that model we showed earlier. This is a time that we think, please ask us your questions. Let us know how we can be of support. We're looking at getting the signups for those conferences out the last week of August. in the first week of September, and they'll be ran through your school. So we're still working on the application. I'm sure that the ed tech department would not like me giving a promise on those dates, but I know that they can do it, and we're really excited. And we think this is a way for students to feel like they know who their teacher is, and to have that time one-on-one, and that the first time they meet their teacher and are going through this really unique experience isn't with 20 other people on a Zoom, or it won't be Zoom, it'll be in Teams. So we're thinking that that's really valuable time. By doing that, we have got rid of weather makeup days, because now that we know we can go virtual, if ever there was inclement weather, we can go virtual on those days. So you'll see that the start date changed, but our end date stays the same. And that's partially how we were able to do that. That and absorbing a professional learning day from later in the school year was taken. So I wanted you to know our thinking behind it. This was a request that we heard from teachers, from administrators, from families, like, how are we gonna do this? How am I expected to know how to help my student, to even know what to expect? Because as we said, every elementary kid student schedule is different, right? Because no 2 third grades are the same, and when they go to recess or when they have PE, because there's only one PE teacher in the building, and so they've got to balance their schedules. During this time, we also think that our specialists, our PE teachers, our music teachers, our art teachers, our science teachers will be hosting webinars so that you're connected to them as well. And you can kind of hear what the fitness experience is going to be like at Moran Prairie, or art at Moran Prairie, or things like that. So that we just want everyone to feel like their school is their school, and that there's a community there, and that we're doing it differently, but we're really trying to honor the experience of kids and families, and make sure that when the date comes, that they can come back, that they're excited, and that they're running to see their teacher because they know them, and that they might know a friend or two in the class. So that's the significant change. The 8th, like as we said, that's the day that we see learning starting. That's the day we'll be doing the conferences. Those will be all day for those 4 days. And then the instruction that mirrors the model shown starts on the 14th. So with that, we'll stop sharing. And we can start answering some questions. So Adam, I'm giving you the first question. I have some that were emailed in earlier today, so I want to make sure I get to some of those. And there's quite a few kindergarten families saying, we don't have a student ID, it's our first student in Spokane schools, how do I get a laptop?
Yeah, so that information will be coming soon to our kindergarten families as part of our annual registration process. So you can look for that information shortly coming to you. Once you receive your packet, then you'll have all that information that you'll need to sign up and check out your laptop. We know this is a difficult time for our kindergarten families, and our heart aches for your little person, that this is going to be the way that they start their school experience. And we're going to do everything we can to make it as best as possible, and to make it fun and exciting. And we're going to do everything we can to phase them back into our schools as soon as we can safely do so. So information will be coming soon to our registered kindergarten families. If you need help on the initial registration process, please log on to our website, and you can complete that process online. And those pieces of information will be coming to you soon.
All right, the next question I'm giving to Clint Price. So there's questions about supplies. Will students receive a home packet of materials, markers, glues, pencils? Because students who are younger might need things more provided than what the computer will do.
I'm glad I got that one, because the short answer is yes. And those materials are actually en route to the district as we speak. Every building, if you remember back last spring, has a pickup and delivery system that we've developed for our communities, and we'll do so again this fall. And your student will receive a packet of those basics that'll have the pencils and the crayons and all of those basics we need to get started, along with probably their beginning ELA materials, their beginning math materials. We'll try to have all of those things together, so when families come through, they can pick all those up in one shot.
Thank you. The next question is going to Tricia Gessley. and it's about kindergarten. What does learning look like for a kindergartner in this environment?
Well, it's a great question because you know what? We're all kind of building our train as we go as well. But we've had a super exciting week this week. I don't know if you're aware, but this is our annual Summer Institute week. And so I would say we've had probably 90% of the kindergarten teachers in classes with us where we've been brainstorming together. How do we make sure kids have that chance to step away from the computer? How do we give them activities that they can do and come back and show us in our video chat so there's not this take a picture all the time? How do we get work back, and how do we make sure that we're age appropriate for kindergarten? Because I saw a couple questions around 3 hours on computer is rough on everybody, and the younger they get, the harder it is. So we definitely have been doing a lot of brainstorming on how do we be age appropriate. So some of that may even be, I'm going to start this little timer. I want you to go to one end of the room and the other and do 3 jumping jacks and come back, so that then we're ready to re-engage in the learning. Looking at really short blocks of learning and then little short blocks away. And the other thing Heather talked about too on this one is that I do, we do, and then you do on your own. So we do it together and then you do it. And so we really are structuring a lot of our instruction in a similar format, but just through that virtual matter. One last thing on this one, we had lots of conversation around what good instruction doesn't change because our method is different. So just because we're virtual, teachers still have really good instructional strategies. So we're excited to be with your kids.
All right, this next question is for Tricia Kenberg. This is from a mental health counselor who is looking about students who are homeless. And will they be able to attend the school they'd previously gone to?
Definitely follow the intent of having them get services like we've always done, and so they would remain with their school, and then we would keep them connected. We want them also, we want you to notify the school. Maybe the school doesn't even know at this point that those students are homeless, so you want to be in contact with your school principal and counselor to let them know, and then we'll follow through with that HEART program referral and make sure that they have all the resources and services that they need. So it's really important to stay connected to your building principal and counselor.
Thank you. Adam, lots of questions about day camp. When will registration open? How will it open? Online, via phone? I have some that were emailed in earlier. Do they get to choose their location? Will it be close to their school? It's a multi-part question here. We've already covered the where, but how do they apply for scholarships? That's the tail end of that question.
Yeah, this will, the day camps will start in our elementary schools, and it'll start in a select number of sites. We'll increase the number of sites based on demand, based on space available, and based on available staff. So one of the things we want to be really open about is it's going to be limited space, and we're going to provide spots based on need. The registration will be sent to families tomorrow via email. And it'll be an online registration process where you'll have the opportunity to select the school site of your preference. And then as we collate all that registration information, we'll be looking to turn around as quickly as possible to let families know about their placement in the program or whether they'll be on the wait list. And we recognize everybody wants to have a plan, and we know our working families want to have a plan and get it in place and get everybody settled in and accustomed to it and make sure your student knows. And we know that you wanted that plan in place long before today. And so we're going to move as quickly as we can to confirm that for you so that you can move forward knowing what your option is going to be for your student.
Thank you. Clint, I'm coming back to you. How will we know which teachers and classes our kids have?
Oh, good question. Buildings are going to follow their regular process. Most buildings inform those folks somewhere between 2 and 5 days before the start of that year. We're still in the process right now of figuring out who all is going to be with us. As you know, families still have time to opt into SVA. So I might have a few families who I think are coming, but I might find out next week that they've decided that SVA is the best and safest option for them. So before that school starts and before those class supplies go out, we'll be touching base with families and letting them know who the teacher is for the year.
Thank you. Trish Gessley, I'm back. The question is, How can you explain the process for particularly a primary, to turn in work?
Yeah, that's a great question. And another one that we've been really kind of throwing out some ideas this last week with this Summer Institute. One thing I just have to brag on our teachers. We've had almost 9,000 teachers attend our Summer Institute because they are so excited to give your students the best that they can give. So the questions is around, there's going to be lots of methods for returning student work. We've done a lot of work this week with teams and how to make that turn in and feedback loop tighter. And that's not always going to be the best option, but that's going to be a great option that we use often. So the Teams is going to help that piece a lot because it's a common platform that we're all using. That being said, we've also explored some other ways around using some video and using some snapshots. And one of the things several teachers have said is when we meet with parents, we are going to help them and kind of talk about one big tech piece, which is around how to take a screenshot of a computer so that if there's some computer work that they've been doing, we're able to get that work back without it being super confusing for all. So that we're doing lots of conversation and lots of best practice around how to get work back.
Thank you. Gwen, I have a question for you about Spokane Virtual Academy. The wonder is, what's the anticipated student-teacher ratio? And are specialty classes such as music and PE offered just like they are in the real-time distance option?
The ratio will be similar to the traditional school. And yes, we will have some other options, whether it's art, maybe music, PE, at the elementary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and there continues to be chatter about kindergarten. We do think we're going to host a kindergarten specific. It's such a unique experience for your first day of school to be in this virtual setting. So just know that we'll be bringing in some more experts and inviting incoming kindergarten families into another webinar. Just so you know, because it's so intricate how to do kindergarten on a good year, let alone in a virtual setting. So stay tuned for that date. Will parent, student, teacher meetings be virtual or in person? Let you answer that one, Dr. Swinyard.
Yeah, so the teacher and the parent will be working and coordinating together to find the best mutual fit for an in-person or virtual conference. Really, whether either format, this is really about, as Heather mentioned, building a relationship, making that connection. Everything that happens in our school buildings orbits around the bond that we create with our students. And it's so critically important that we do that at the start of the school year and have an opportunity to make sure that there's a shared understanding of how to use the digital tools, how to access the laptop, what the daily routine might look like, developing ideas and strategies in your home to help your student be successful, whether that's talking about where their individual workspace is going to be, how might you create some separation from siblings so that they have a quiet place to work and they don't distract each other. And also have an opportunity to talk about really their individual needs and who they are as a little person. The more that our teachers know and understand the details about your student and who they are, the better they can flex their strategies to meet their needs. And that's going to be more important than ever this year. Making that connection, that bond, understanding who our little people are and what they need, what motivates them. It's going to be critically important to help them engage and help them build those habits and routines to be successful. And again, we are very concerned about our primary grades and their ability to access this model. We know it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for teachers. It's going to be hard for parents. It's going to be hard for kids. And the only way we're going to get through it is if we do it together. And we communicate and we collaborate, and when we reach out when it's not working, and it's hard. You know, I had a first grader last year, and we struggled as a family to make that work. And we have 2 educators in our house, so this is not an easy thing that we're taking on, and it's not the choice that we prefer. And that conference is going to be a critical part to getting a positive start and getting a good foundation underneath us so that we can move forward together this year.
Thank you. Becky, 2 most commonly asked questions in terms of special education is, what do services look like? And what if I'm concerned about getting my student tested?
Okay. So first, child find or an evaluation for an IEP We have on our special education website information if you are concerned about your child's progress and would like to see if they qualify for an IEP. As a student with a disability, you can go to our website under special education, and we have a phone number and a website available where you can enter your information and we'll get back to you. Or you could wait until school started and get in touch with your school counselor. As far as what services are going to look like for next year, we are hosting Tuesday night webinars for families who have students in special education. The link to the Zoom meeting for next Tuesday should be in the communication that goes out tomorrow to all families. So be watching for that. But we have the ability to provide services both virtually, and then for those students who we have many students who the ability to make progress through the virtual environment, it's very difficult. So we do have the ability to bring students in on a limited basis for some targeted small group instruction. It might not be all day, every day, because we need to keep those group sizes small, especially while we are in this distance learning model, but we do want to make sure we provide some in-person services to those that need it most.
Thank you. Tricia Canberg. There's questions about the afternoon instructional block, and I was wondering if you could address it because I wasn't that clear. So.
In front of me, so I can make sure I get all the details correct. So independent work time, that 12:50 to 1:50 after lunch, that might be that time where students do address the learning that happened from the morning, or they might be working on something for the next day. And then we would definitely encourage families to have set play times. Maybe the kids are going out riding a bike if it's weather's nice, or finding something to do that puts them outside doing something different than being in front of the computer. We would definitely encourage that. And then as far as real-time personal learning block, that might be if your child just needs a little extra support. Maybe the teacher will bring a small group together in a session on Teams and work with them. They might even work one-on-one with another adult and help them get through something, through an activity. And then support enrichments. Our specialists are planning to offer some opportunities for our elementary students to engage in extended learning from their prep time. So people in kindergarten parents been asking, what are specialists? So our specialists are our health and fitness teacher, a music teacher, a science or art teacher, depending on your building. And they'll offer that specialist time in the morning block, but in the afternoon, they'll offer some enrichment opportunities for students. And then student and parent access time. If your child has a specific question, wants to meet with their teacher, or maybe a special education teacher, a parent, same thing, they would have access to all of our teachers during that designated time of 2:30 to 3. We would be available for a phone call, email, or a Teams meeting.
Thank you. Adam, will there be transportation available to the camps?
We're still working on and finalizing the logistics of transportation, both for our camp options, our learning centers, as well as our in-person instruction. So our families can anticipate that information will be coming soon. We want to maximize the support we provide to students the best we can. We also want to be really efficient and good stewards of our resources, and create a system and a model that really effectively allows and provides assistance in kids getting to our school buildings when they need to, and having a model that puts us in the best position possible so that when we phase back to school and open our buildings, we're ready to make that shift really quickly and have our transportation system up and ready to go.
So you're getting two in a row here. There's a question in the chat, and there was one that was emailed earlier, and it is for families that have the ability to help. How can they help? So if I am a stay-at-home parent, is there something I could be doing to help other families? And is there a way to connect people to each other?
Yeah, well, we're hearing all sorts of scenarios where neighborhoods are working together, families are partnering together to support each other around childcare, around having those effective habits and routines. If a family is interested in volunteering and providing support, they can contact Dr. Oscar Harris in our Department of Family and Community Engagement. But that's one of the great things about Spokane. It's one of the things that makes our community strong. It's one of the reasons that we should all be so hopeful that we're going to get through this, is that parents are stepping up, teachers are stepping up, community agencies are stepping up. Everybody's rising to meet the needs for kids around our shared interest to give them the best experience that we can. So we're excited that families are having those conversations in their neighborhood, and we're looking forward to how we can support and nurture that and do it in a way where everyone's following the safety protocols and guidelines and that are adhering to strict cohorting. The fastest way for us to get back to school is for our community to follow the health and safety guidelines that have been shared by the health district. That is our surest and quickest path back. Whether you agree or disagree with the recommendation of the health district, the way the number is going to go down is by us following those safety protocols. So we're encouraging families to be thoughtful about that and to do everything they can and do everything we can as a community to make that happen.
Thank you. Gwen, there's questions about SVA if they will be having conferences as well during that week.
Yes, they will have conferences just like we are in the traditional programs, yes.
So Adam, there's lots of questions out there about who to reach out to if they're thinking they're not on a mailing list, just with some pressing timelines around signing up, around the day camps, around the things, and they're saying, I'm not getting the emails. Who do I reach out to?
Yeah, so if they think they're not getting their email, they should reach out to the principal of their home school and inquire about whether or not they have an accurate email address on file. If they don't feel like they have a home school yet, or they're new to our area, or maybe they've moved, they can contact our main district office line, or they can go to our webpage and submit an inquiry there.
Clint, I know you love a supplies question, so I'm coming back to you.
All right.
Will there be packs of projects or printed work that we see going home, particularly again for the youngers, but do you see your 4th and 5th grade teachers having printed materials that they would be sending home to students to start the year?
I see there probably being some printed materials. They are not going to be what we experienced quite as much last spring with the packets, the reams of paper that were coming home, because we have students who will have hopefully much better access to the technology. We're better prepared to serve students on those online platforms, but they will probably still have the write-in readers for ELA. We'll have math workbooks. Those pieces will still be provided to students.
Thank you.
And we really think that's a really important part of the model. Again, we don't want kids staring at a screen all day. And so we want to have a school experience where, as Tricia mentioned, they're up, they're moving around the room, they might be doing a scavenger hunt, they're working on a paper pencil workbook, they are back to the computer in a live session, having a conversation with a group of peers. They're on a digital tool that is game-based, that's doing skill remediation. We're going to try to have as much variety as possible. Our little people's brains are built for novelty. That's what drives them, that's what engages them, and that's what excites them. And so we're going to work to provide as much novelty as we can in this environment. We know it's going to be complicated. Routines and structures are going to be really important, but novelty is going to be something that will be woven in to our lessons plans to the greatest extent possible.
Gwen, I'm coming back. SVA is very popular tonight. Where would SVA students pick up their materials?
We will have students pick up their materials right from their neighborhood schools. We'll have everything waiting there for them,
There we
including
go.
their laptops.
Yes. Adam, can you address connectivity and internet access for families?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we learned this spring is that access to high quality internet is a real community challenge, and something that we need partnership at the local and state level, as well within our nonprofit community agencies and philanthropic community. We really all need to wrap our arms around supporting our families in that area. We're working with corporations like Comcast to provide low-cost options, as well as provide a limited number of hotspots to our families that need that support. one of the things that we learned is a lot of our families, very few families asked for access support. But what we did notice is that although they had access, it wasn't high quality access. It wasn't the type of access that allows you to participate in a live meeting like we are tonight. And those of us that have been spending time in these types of Zoom meetings, we have all experienced that it's really hard and disruptive if your connection isn't good, and if you're fading in and out and you can't hear, your screen freezes, and we just can't have those types of disruptions for our kids. That's going to make engagement that much harder. So we're working really hard with partners to develop options for families. If they need assistance, we're really encouraging them to reach out. And as we mentioned, we're going to do a device checkout for every kid if that's the option that they want to go with. And so that checkout link was sent out to our families the last couple of weeks. We encourage you to go and to fill that out to start that process. And our devices will include an internet filter this fall. We want to make sure that your kids are safe while they're using those devices, and they'll be equipped with software that has an internet filter when the school year begins.
Thanks. Trisha Gessley, just because I know you're probably the most connected to this work, there's questions about the report card. What are we picturing the report card at elementary school to look at first semester?
That's a great question, in the fact that we've really been looking at how do we make sure that we look at that critical content at a grade level and really make sure that we're getting them what they need. In addition, we do have two adaptive online systems, one for ELA and one for math, that are going to be critical in helping kids get all of those pieces that they need to be able to make growth. And both those programs are really, really powerful programs we're excited to be offering to our families. So with that, the report card's going to look a little bit different, but the other pieces, we are teaching new content. We are looking at our grade level standards and saying, what do our kids need? Because our kids and your students, your child is our future. And we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to help them be that citizen that we need them to be. And that includes learning this year.
Thanks. Trisha Canberg, how do you see kinesthetic learners being supported in a virtual environment?
To reiterate a little bit of what Adam spoke to earlier is I think that, and then also Trisha in her earlier answers, that I think teachers are being really creative on how they're approaching the learning, and they understand that kids can't be, adults, we all agree, adults can't be in front of a computer for this length of time, so we just can't ask our young learners to do that either. So I think teachers are being very intentional in their planning to create times and options for kids to get up and get the movement out, or to have them, like Adam was saying, do a scavenger hunt, find things in their home or outside their home. And so I think that's where we're really looking to be creative in how we do that 3-hour block of getting kids up and learning. And then of course, you know, if there's ever a concern, I would just encourage a parent, especially a learner like that, if you feel like it's not being met, reach out to the teacher and see what options they might have. That the communication is still there. We want parents to communicate with us. We don't want parents to sit at home and go, oh my gosh, my kid's needs aren't being met. Talk with the teacher, talk with the counselor at the school, talk with the specialists that we have available, be open to the communication part, so we know that that's a need of your child. So we want to really encourage that as well, to open the communication between home and school.
Thank you. Adam, there's questions about attendance. How will attendance be tracked?
Yeah, so we will be taking attendance for students. We're still waiting for finalized details from the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction. That's the state entity that oversees public schools in Washington, to learn exactly what that protocol will be. But we will take attendance, not to be punitive on kids, but we want to monitor engagement really closely. And if our routines and our structures aren't being successful, or there's barriers that a student might be facing in their home that's preventing them from engaging, we want to know who that student is. We want to come alongside them and support them and provide interventions and resources to establish the type of setting that's going to help them be successful. So we will be taking attendance. We'll monitor that really closely when we finalize those protocols, and we'll be reaching out to kids and families that need extra support.
Thanks. Trisha Gessley, I'm coming back. Will the kids be learning new content this year? Are we going to continue to idle in place?
Yeah, we can't afford to idle in place, and our kids, like Dr. Swinyard pointed out, need novel they need novelty in that learning, and then the novelty comes in new learning and the curiosity around learning. And so really when we've looked at those things this week, we've said, here's new content. We can't do all the 150 days that we typically do, but here's the things we can do, and these are the things that are critical for those students to be successful next year and beyond. So yes, we are learning new content, and we're super excited to get that started with them.
Okay, here's a question, and I'm going to leave this one open to see who jumps in. How will substitutes work? So if a teacher is sick and we need to get a substitute, what does that look like?
We'll continue to have a substitute pool. That'll look a little bit different. The teacher's ability to provide distance learning in their own home might change their feeling of the necessity to have a substitute when they're not feeling well. So we know that the need for subs will evolve. It's hard to predict exactly what that will be like, but we'll still have subs when the situation requires it, when staff aren't feeling up to providing that experience for kids. So we're prepared for it. We think it's gonna look different. The demand will be different, but it'll be a structure that we'll continue to have.
Thank you. I'm coming back to you, Dr. Swinyard. There's questions about people who have laptops. So they checked them out in the spring, they have them. Can they keep them as they start to fall? And if they need updates, or there's one with a bad battery, how do they go about getting that looked at?
Yeah, so they can visit our our district webpage to get information on how to bring that device back in, to get it updated, or have any type of care that needs to be done to it. If a family has a laptop that they've checked out and it's working in good order, then they can keep that as we move into the new school year.
And I will see there's a question here on the type of device, and just for families to know, we are prioritizing our younger kids having touch screens, knowing that they haven't, although it's impressive what a 5-year-old can do with technology, we know that they don't have all the skills where they're not writing emails. So we're looking at getting them touchscreen devices. So.
Yeah, the new devices that we buy for our students, it's a laptop and a touch screen, so it doubles as both with a stylus. So it's a really multifunctional device. We don't purchase iPads because we've gone with that more functional multi-dimensional tool. So those new devices have a touch screen built into them.
Any advice, and again, this one I'm throwing out to the group, anyone can answer. Any advice for families on how to help kids with the distractions of home? So if we're saying, hey, we want you to be intentional about this time, how would you advise families to help students not be distracted?
I might start with that. There's a couple things we can do. I know I have my own kiddos. I have 3, and it's not the easiest thing with everything going on in the house to stay focused for adults or for kids. So we encourage families to set up kind of a learning space for their kiddo. A little, maybe it's one side of their room, maybe it's one part of the living room, but a little section where you as the adult can kind of help set up that space and not have some of those distractions, and also know that distractions are going to happen. We're going to do our best with the teaching and learning to give them breaks and to give them distraction time so they can get up and take brain breaks just like we do during regular class. But that little learning space within your home as much as you can will help that. And the other thing is routines, helping those kiddos stick to those routines, getting up, having that breakfast, getting dressed for school, just like we would on every other day, except they come to their computer to join their class. And then hopefully that carries over, so when we transition back, they're ready to go with us.
Thank you. This kind of piggybacks on this, and maybe I'll give this one to you, Tricia Kenberg. How much should families assist, and how much should they encourage independence during this time?
I always err on the side of encouraging independence. So kids, like we've been mentioning, are fantastic with technology, and they might need some assistance when they first get started, but they can't break anything. So allow them to explore it a little bit, allow them to fail, because through failure they learn how to get onto teams and to respond to things. we're going to do our part to monitor engagement. And if you're not certain, you can always reach out during that 2:30 to 3 time to connect with the teacher and say, I'm wondering how my child is doing, and you can stay connected. But I'm one that always encourages, really encourage the independence, and they're going to surprise you with what they can do. But I feel sometimes if we're too close to them and walking them through everything, then they rely on you rather than relying on their own ability. So even I urge this for kindergarten all the way through 6th grade. Yes, they'll need some help getting started, but the more you really push them towards that independence, they're going to be happy and gain that confidence in themselves, and you're going to gain confidence in their ability to do it, and you're still going to be able to stay engaged and monitor with that teacher's help if you know, like I said, use those times to engage with the teacher and check on progress.
Thanks. Clint, I'm coming back. You're getting one more before the night's up. So families have reached out and asked, the fall has so many fun events, right? Schools do back to school nights, they do fun runs, they do fall festivals. What does that look like in a virtual world? Is that something that schools are still planning on doing? Kind of a whole school community type of event?
It's a great question. We've been working on that at Moran Prairie, and I know among my 35 colleagues at elementaries all over town, we're talking about this. We're working with our PTGs, and we're working with our staff to figure out what those events look like. We were able to, in some places, run virtual events last spring. So if you were in a building that was fortunate enough to do that, I think some more opportunities like that will be coming out. I know for us, we usually do a fun run. That's a tough thing to do when you can't be at school. So we're working with our PTG on how to do that virtually for kids, just like they did with the Prairie Dog fun run for the Spokane for all the little kids, to run a virtual way of doing that so kids can get out and be excited about stuff. I know in other buildings, they've had readathons. Those are all ways that we encourage participation with the class. It promotes the academic activity and helps build that team among the school kids.
Thank you. So Adam, we're out of time for the evening. Parting words or wisdom for families as they're absorbing fall.
Yeah, well, just we appreciate everybody here this evening. Thank you to our panelists. You, I'm sure, have gotten just a small sense of the level of dedication and expertise that is in our school district amongst our leaders and teachers, and they are so committed to doing everything they can to make the best of this situation. So we appreciate you being here. We know this is a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to process with your student. It's a lot of change, and change is hard. And we're in a moment that's pretty chaotic, the world around us, in our community. And so we need to take it one day at a time, give each other grace and understanding, look for where we agree and have common interest around doing the best we can for our kids. And right now is a moment for us to come together and to move forward together the best we can, focused on starting this year in a positive way so that our kids will look back on this experience and we hope that they will have grown, that they'll have learned, and then they'll be stronger through us helping usher them through it. So we appreciate everybody with us again tonight. Next week, we will focus on secondary. So we'll have a webinar that's specific to secondary. We'll have some of our secondary principals, our middle and high school principals with us on the panel to talk about what that model will be like. So have a good evening and be well.